Welcome to Geeks and Grounds, a monthly game club and bi-weekly podcast where we play games and brew thoughtful conversations together. I am your host, ready for another year of games and discussion. I am Jenny Wyndham, and in case you're new or you need a refresher, we focus on one game a month, really percolate over it, if you will, and we deep dive into its themes, mechanics, and gameplay to really make connections between not only what we're experiencing as we play the game, but connect it to what we're living in our daily lives and the world around us. And we don't do this alone because the fun part is sharing these experiences with others. So, joining us in the cafe for this month of January, we have someone fresh off of their first podcast episode for their channel and outlet, Honest Indies, yay! And avid supporter of indie games, big and small. We have Chris Biagini Foot. Did I pronounce that? Actually,
you nailed it.
Perfect. I was like,
hello,
in the
Geeks and
moment.
Ground crew.
And I was like, I hope I pronounced that right. But it's so good to have you here, Chris. How are you today?
I am as good as I could possibly be on a Monday. So I hope you're doing well too. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I have been really excited and very looking forward to our conversation today, just because I'm such a big admirer of the work you do. And I know you had like something cooking for today, you had kind of hinted at it. And when I saw the podcast drop, I was ecstatic. I think, was it yesterday or time is, what is time?
It was
I just
today.
know I saw the podcast today and I was just like, oh my God. And you were interviewing Saffron Aurora, who's an incredible indie dev and artist. So yeah, I've had a pretty good day, mostly because I've just listened to that and plugged away at work, not too much other than that today.
It's a pretty good Monday though.
Yeah. So at the start of every month, in addition to introducing the game that we're going to be focusing on for the duration of the month, we do something slightly different. This is our opportunity to get to know Chris, as well as do an Indiescovery. So highlighting some of the games that either have come out recently, and today we're doing a bit of a special edition. We're going to highlight the games we're most excited about for 2026, because it's the beginning of the year, and that's what everyone does. It's just show what they're excited for the whole year. But again, the main goal that we'll conclude with is introducing and diving into some of the history and development of our game Gas Station Story, which I am just very excited to talk about with you all. So if you don't already have Gas Station Story, you can pick it up on Steam, on itch, and join the conversation over on Discord via the website, geeksandgrounds.com. You can also sign up for the newsletter, where I will be sending every other week resources and just kind of additional things to help deepen your experience with the gameplay, whether they're readings that I think are connected, maybe fun little activities that you can try, and so on. But first, before we hop into today's discussion, we always like to kick off with a pastry case. This is like our little grab bag of topics, either having to do with the industry, what's going on in our lives. It's like a pastry case. You got a little bit of everything in there. And you came prepared. What do you have in your hands?
It looks a little sad because it flattened when I cut it, and also it's a little dark. But this is a chocolate hazelnut croissant. Shout out B-Side Bakery. That's in a tiny little area nearby called the Devil's Triangle.
Wow.
They make fantastic baked goods. I've gotten one of those like 5 times, and we've only been in the area for 3 months. So gonna be enjoying the rest of that later. I had the other half of it earlier, but I needed to share a little bit of it just to crack it out for the bit.
I fully appreciate. Today I brought, not as exciting as a cake. This is just a vanilla oat milk latte. Classic. But I am so happy that you came prepared and ready for the pastry case. And so to kick off the pastry case, I would love for folks to have a chance to get to know you. You've already shared maybe one of your current favorite pastry orders, but do you have a favorite like coffee or cafe drink order that you like to go with?
My typical go-to is an oat milk chai. It's usually iced, but if it's below like 40 degrees, then I'm not going to get it iced when it's cold enough. Sometimes it's just a chai, sometimes it's a dirty chai, sometimes it's a dirty chai with a second shot in it. But an oat milk chai is my go-to beverage, especially if I haven't been someplace before or if I haven't been there often. Like, that's the thing. It needs to pass my test on if it's good enough or not for me to come back or bother exploring more of the menu.
I love that. I've had my like I call it your bar drink, right? Where it's like this is setting the bar for, yeah, like you said, if you're gonna come back or not. It used to be a latte for me, but it's now changed to the espresso. If it has a solid espresso, then I'm in.
Because that's going to
But
then
a
be
good
in a lot of
chai.
other drinks. And if it's not good by
Exactly.
itself, it's not going to be good with everything else. That
Yeah,
makes
I would say
sense.
chai though. That's a good one because I do think there are a lot of really bad chai out there. There's just like a lot of mediocre chai out there. So it's a good barometer.
I enjoy some basic ones, but also the more authentic, uh, a range of them. With actual coffee, I'm
Hmm.
not picky at all. My favorite just coffee is like diner coffee. If I sit
Yeah.
at a diner with my partner and we just like sit in the little stools at the bar side, like I won't even add anything to that. I'll just have diner coffee black and have 2 or 3 cups of it.
Hmm. Oh, that's so good. Now I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I have coffee now because it's making me crave coffee.
I
But
have
yeah, tell
sparkling
us.
water
Oh,
because it's a little later by me.
ooh, that's another question. I've grown to love sparkling water. I used to not at all drink it, but that's evolved over the years, I feel like.
Same.
So tell us a little bit more about Honest Indies because I've been hyping, you've got your podcast that just came out, but at its core, what do you do at Honest Indies?
I'm still finding my footing with that a little bit. This is something that I started just as a fun side project back in the spring, mostly streaming on Twitch and then posting VODs to YouTube. Sometimes I'm wanting to play a thing, but don't feel like being live, so occasionally I'll play something on my own time and then upload it to YouTube later. But the whole point is to highlight indie games, which is something many people do, including yourself. It's something we're doing right now and for this whole month, but just wanting to be an additional voice in my tiny queer trans corner of the internet, highlighting indies, and then especially a lot of small ones, which I'm
Mm,
also stoked that we're talking about a game that, as of yesterday, has 7 reviews on Steam, so we need to get that up.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
that also includes like playing itch only games, playing free games, non commercial games, and starting to get into the podcast. Episode 1 is out today with Saffron Aurora of Kitten Cup Studio, currently making Cappy Castaway. I have a couple of written interviews coming up soon, so if anybody goes to my Substack, you can see Monsoon Games and their written interview within a couple of days. And I want to just do more highlighting developers and people that work on and around games in addition to the games themselves. I find that as a
Hmm.
player, I get extra excited and enthusiastic about games when I know something about the people or the studio making them. And when people are good people or cool or interesting or just like great artists, then it's that much easier to like really support and champion what they're doing. So I want to be able to highlight that as well.
Mm,
With the podcast, it's not strictly about people's work in their game. I want to start with it being a bit more biographical, learn about first gaming memories, whether that was playing a game or just hearing about them or seeing them for the first time as a kid or as a 30 something, whenever people got into games, and kind of leading through how they then got into the industry or doing what they're doing and the game that they're
yeah.
working on or maybe have just released.
That's that's super. I love what you said about, you know, when you know the people behind it and you know their stories, it becomes that much easier to advocate for and get excited about. And I think there are so many. We hear a lot of the horror stories from games and the people and some of the studios and the bigger folks who make them. We hear stories about in cinema and in books, like we see a lot of the bad things, and I think the fact that you're highlighting here are the people who are doing great work, here are the really exciting folks to pay attention to who are here for the culture. Like it's really cool to see, and especially with the just the decimation that media games journalism has seen lately over the
Yeah.
past few years. It's just really nice to see people still coming in and creating spaces for indie developers to get seen because they are the ones losing out on a lot of that visibility.
Yeah, like honest indies and other people like me isn't really replacing that stuff, but hopefully it's at least like being a little bit additive because unfortunately
Yeah.
the industry both on like the development and publisher front is kind of a nightmare, but also what's happened to media. And now I'm not going to go on a whole tirade about it, but AI and like AI searches and people's
Yeah.
sites and their own walkthroughs and reviews not getting clicks because people are just reading the AI summaries and stuff of it. All of that stinks. So at least just to be another tiny person highlighting things hopefully helps.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. I feel like there is a huge wave of that happening, but as an individual, at least, I have found that I have like almost hard pushed the other way where I am actively like, I have a bookmarks, like, what is it? Drop down, I guess, that is specifically like smaller indie outlets that I now go to almost actively instead of larger outlets at this point. Like, of course, I'll still click on if there's a big article that looks very interesting, but at this point, my energy is spent on supporting, well, and a lot of folks in the more indie journalism spaces are folks that I know and care deeply about. And so that definitely helps. But that goes to your point where it's like, I know you, I care about you, and I care about your perspective specifically more than someone at a big outlet who I maybe don't have that connection with. It feels very different for me as a reader. So I don't know. I think there's places for both. Both are useful, but it's exciting to see more indie journalists kind of come through and interviewers and analysts. So it's great.
And I have a
So
journalism degree, so hopefully I get to
yeah,
use that
you're
a little
using
bit. I haven't done anything with it for 11 years, so
that's that's really cool. It's honestly journalism is something I wish I went into because I feel like it could have maybe prepped me in ways that I wish I had skills now, but I digress. I'm curious, was there a specific indie game that pushed you to want to create this kind of like space? Is there one indie game, or was it kind of a culmination of playing a lot of different indie games?
I think the closest thing to being one is one of the first that I then streamed, and that is Some Goodbyes We Made. It's actually a small collection of games that are all about goodbyes or would be goodbyes. Sometimes the goodbye doesn't actually happen. And I just find them all so sweet. And when I was playing that, I think maybe 2 years ago at this point, it was one of those of like, I wish I made this. I did not, so shout out to
Mm-hmm.
you. But like, this is like the exact type of thing that I would want to do. Time passes, and then I realize, you know what? That's a game that's not getting a whole lot of love, doesn't have a big following, and was one that I knew, oh, hey, if I start streaming and things, that's one that I'm going to want to push a little bit. So I made my partner play it, and
Mm-hmm.
I just sat next to them as
Oh, that's so sweet.
quietly at times judging them, not loving it as much as me because they should.
Mm-hmm.
So that was up there, but really it was just kind of timing. I alluded to it earlier, but I moved a few months ago from the Midwest to Virginia, and it's a big gap between where I was and where I am now. So I just kind of knew I was going to be physically leaving a lot of my friends, and it was not going to be the same, and the gaming groups and
Mm.
conversations were going to be different. And one of my best friends, who I would talk about games with all the time for years, um, just we had kind of an abrupt falling out, and then they also moved, so it's like I wanted to have an outlet to be able to have and create those conversations as well. And it's like, okay, this idea that's been in the back of my head for a long time, mixed with just the timing and wanting to start doing something before moving, like hoping to find some online community when I knew I'd be migrating away from my physical one.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. And I have that game on my wish list and I have not played it yet. And I remember seeing actually clips of it being played. And maybe it was you, honestly. But I remember seeing clips and wish listing it and I haven't picked it up yet. So I appreciate the reminder for some goodbyes we made because
One
that
of my
looks like
favorite
such a
things
sweet
about it
game.
is like the framing of it. This is not a spoil of the game or collection of games, but
Hmm.
basically you're seeing a little computer screen with different folders of the games, but also blurbs about them. So you get to play a game for a minute or two or 10. And then also, if you want to, and you should, read about like this is that specific memory that led to this game being made, or this is the class that I was taking
Wow.
in college when someone said like, oh, you should make a game about that. I just really love whenever there's just that added personal information, or when developers go like really inside baseball and are showing here's
Mm,
all the wish lists, here's everything that happened with my studio or with my game this month kind of thing. So to have some of that within the game, A plus for me.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I'll make sure that I added a note to put that in the newsletter because that is such a great shout. And yeah, it's like, and I figure like there are probably lots of other titles that built into, you creating this space for talking about games and talking about the people who make them. But it's neat to hear about sort of maybe one that stands out a little bit more than a lot of the others. Uh, what's a game that you feel like that you would like to convince everyone to play? It doesn't have to be right now, but if at some point in their lives someone's looking and wanting to play a game, what's the one game that you're hoping to convince them to play and why?
Yeah, I wrote one down for this, and then I've been thinking about a second one for the last hour. Um, I'm brief shout out to
You
If
can say
Found.
both.
Everybody play If Found. Um, I'll say both. If Found is one. It is a trans narrative game about being in rural Ireland in the 90s when it was especially not easy to be trans. Not like it's easy to do that right now in a lot of the world,
Ugh,
including our country.
yeah.
That's actually why we moved from the state that we were in to where we are, so it would hopefully be a little better and a little safer. It's just a 3 hour game where the whole mechanic is erasing, but as you're erasing the different images and words and kind of notebook style pages on the screen, you're then revealing the next page or the next bit of narrative. And it goes back and forth between its core story and then this kind of wild space thing that doesn't land as hard but has a really interesting aesthetic and does a nice job of just kind of bookending things and changing the pace a little bit. And there's not that many games that I have played or seen that have like this relatable, sometimes painfully, of a just trans experience in a 3 or 4 hour game. So If Found is
Mm.
incredible. A very different game that I would also love everyone to play is called Say No More. Like literally say no, exclamation point, more. It's another short game. You can play it within 2 hours. And I think I would suggest it to anyone because it's also mechanically pretty simple for people that don't play a lot of games or that don't use controllers very often. They should still be able
Mm.
to ease into mostly just walking around an office and pressing a couple of buttons. It's very bright, colorful, silly. The writing is fantastic. You play as an intern at this giant corporation where everyone says yes to everything, and it's also just really abrasive and terrible and corporate. And you find a cassette, a motivational cassette about the power of saying no, and have like a Hulk Hogan esque guy in your ear just like hyping you up to say no to people, and finding like some being empowered by saying no, which is maybe good for like
Hmm.
all the people pleasers out there to like learn and experience like you don't need to say yes to everything all the time, myself included. And it just builds
I
up
feel
into this like
personally attacked by that
ridiculous,
premise.
yeah, but it just builds up into this like really ridiculous series of situations and everybody learning something in the end. So I think that's a good one, really both of them, for people that play games all the time or never or anywhere in between, just to get two very different experiences in a short amount of time.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that you have two that are just like very different sort of emotional vibes and tones, but both are very like S tier picks for sure. Um, is there anything that you'd like folks to know about Honest Indies, just in general? I guess also where can they find you? What platforms are you on? Just make sure before we head into the stuff we're excited about, if they're excited about wanting to find you more, where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at Honest Indies on Instagram, Blue Sky, Substack now, and Substack is free. It will always be free regardless of whether I remain this like tiny person with this little following or not. Like I'm never gonna charge anybody anything anywhere. And then on YouTube, where, like I mentioned, I have VODs from Twitch streams, although I'm not doing Twitch as frequently, plus other video content, previews. The podcast is there, and on Substack, and on Apple Podcasts, and it's going to be going to a few other platforms throughout the next week or so, but not Spotify. Canceled my own Spotify account a few months ago. I'm not going to put
Nice.
anything there. But if there are other non-Spotify platforms that Honest Indies doesn't exist on that you would like it to be on, then also let me know, and I will try to make that happen.
Hey. Awesome. So now that folks have gotten to know you a little bit, let's head on over to stuff that we're excited about. Anything, the only rule is that it has to be something we're playing, watching, listening to, doing, reading, and it's not related to the game of the month. I wanted to shout out, I restarted playing Undertale. I played maybe for, I don't know, about 40 minutes last night. It was incredible. I love that game so much. I don't care. I know that people are like the fandom, and I'm like, you know what? I don't care about the fandom. I care that I love this game with all my heart, and I think it's a beautiful game. Yes, I see the critiques. Yes, as a designer, are there things I would choose differently? Yes, but it's one of those games where it just feels like coming home every time I replay it, and it's been a tradition of mine to replay it once a year approximately. Am I good at it? No. I feel like I never get any better at some of the harder battles. Do I play differently? Not really. I will, at sort of worst, go neutral route. At best, I'll do the pacifist route. I will never, honestly, I have no interest in playing the murder route. I don't
Same.
like it. Yeah, and it's just been great. I love playing Undertale, and so that's been what I've been playing as kind of a let me just get into something that I'm familiar with, that feels good, that I know, and just enjoy it. So that's been very fun for me. So, do you like Undertale? You don't have to like
I
Undertale. You can
do
say
like
no.
Undertale. I've never replayed it. I don't replay games especially often. So when I
Mm-hmm.
do, or like when I played Expedition 33 two times in like 6 weeks from start to finish,
You're not
like
alone. I think so many people did that.
yeah, and somehow almost exactly 30 hours both playthroughs, even though I did different things on different
Wow.
difficulties. The second time, even though I did extra stuff, I knew where other things were, I guess. So it evened out. Like they were 10 minutes apart, I think, in playthrough time. Wild.
Whoa.
Um, so I have played Undertale. I do like it a lot. I have a distinct memory where I beat it on Switch, sitting in my car in a parking lot because I was waiting for my friend to be free so I could walk down the street to his apartment and then we could play other games. So I do like it a lot, but I haven't played it in 4 or 5 years, so I don't remember the specifics that
Mm.
well, just the vibes, and of course, the most famous song.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The most famous song. Um, I've also been watching Rings of Power. Shout out to, I think Joel a long time ago recommended it to me. And I had started it and I was like, this isn't hitting it for me right now. I need to be in the mood for like that high fantasy kind of situation. Um, Started it over the holiday break. I'm still working my way through. I try to do like an episode every other night to try not go too fast through it. Um, and I am pleasantly surprised by it. I also, just to clarify and maybe build some context, so every like Christmas holiday, I watch the full Lord of the Rings extended editions. Like that's just a tradition. I don't even pay attention. I think half the time it's just on, and I just know that like Frodo and Samwise are getting the job done by the end of the year. That's like what I do every year. And then we watch The Hobbit, and it was the worst. it was it was honestly kind of devastating because I'm like, this is worse than I remember it being. And so, as a palate cleanser, we tried to watch. I think there's on. I forget what outlet it's on. I think it may be on Prime, unfortunately. But we tried to watch The Riders of Rohirrim, which is like the animated version of a story about the Rohirrim, which we won't get far into the nerdy stuff, but it's a side story from the Tolkien universe. I found that just not very good personally, and so we
So
bounced off
even
of
the
that. And
palate
so
cleanser was bad.
even the palate cleanser was bad. And then I remembered, I was like, oh, wait, there's Rings of Power. Because I was like, I still want like something in this universe. Let's just give Rings of Power a try. And the first few episodes, I'm like, this is okay. I guess it's good enough that I'm not bouncing off immediately. And now that I'm in season two, I'm actually like, I hope that they get funded for more because this is actually quite compelling and really well done. And I like what they're doing with some of the characterization and some of the nuance that they're putting in. And yeah, so all of that's to say, Rings of Power actually is a lot better than I thought it would be. I feel like not enough people really hyped it up to me, and I am excited to finish it. And then other than that, I've been working on my cross stitching, lots of crafting. I've been baking bread. I've joked a lot about how I missed the bread sourdough movement back in 2020. I never got to do it. And so I decided, I'm like, you know what? I should just bake bread because I have
Because you
free will
can.
and I could do that. Yeah. And so I will have to say I can make really good rolls, like dinner rolls. I think I have perfected dinner rolls. Like I think I have some really good dinner rolls. So if y'all ever come over for dinner, you will be impressed if I bake you bread. But yeah, I'm excited because my next baking project will be salt bread. I don't know if you've seen it. It's been in Korea for a minute, and I know it's been in maybe Japan for a minute as well. Maybe more of East Asia, Southeast Asia, but I feel like it's just now coming to the U.S. And it's basically like a croissant with a lot of butter in the middle. It's like a mix between a croissant and a bagel texturally, I guess. It's shaped like a croissant, maybe textured more like a bagel, but a little bit lighter, very buttery, very good. Um, I'm going to try that maybe in the next week or two. So I'll report back maybe next time.
That sounds great.
Yeah, that's what
I
I've
like
been
bread, I
excited
like
about.
croissants, I like
I
bagels.
know. Yeah, it's like butter, carbs. You really can't like go wrong. So yeah, I will report back, and if I manage to do it successfully, I'll take a picture and share it with you all. What about you? What have you been excited about and into in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, gaming wise, it's been a little quiet for me since around Christmas, but it's kind of the calm before the storm because we're going to be talking about a lot of indies coming up and then leaving out dozens and dozens more. So there's a lot on the horizon, but
Yeah.
the main couple of things that I've played to close out the year, I played Cabernet, which is a very good vampire narrative adventure game. A little bit of RPG elements in terms of you have a few attributes that you can choose to level up and have different options play out during dialogue. And you are in the credits of that game under special thanks because you're everywhere. But I
Oh my
played that; it
gosh.
was very good. I know no small games. I don't remember whether it was Kate or Emily, but like people had been hyping that up. It came out early last year and had been on my list. And then I saw someone else post just in their year-end things about Cabernet. And I was like, okay, I need to just finally play this.
Mhm.
Really enjoyed my time. I know I just said I don't replay games often, but that's one that I'm considering replaying sooner than later because I stumbled later in the game and kind of messed something up with one character that then cut me out of a bunch of side stuff in like the final hour and a
No.
half or so. I'm like, dang it, I should have timed what I did this particular night better. So I played Cabernet. I am both bummed in myself and proud of myself with Final Fantasy X because I haven't beat it yet, still, ever in my life. But I'm on the final boss. I just cannot get
Yes.
past the second phase. Like,
Oh.
not even close so far. Only in like 4 attempts. It's not like an Elden Ring boss that takes 30 tries sometimes, but
Mhm.
I gotta. I need to beat my dad. I need to beat him up. I need a win. So I'm gonna still try that. Probably a couple more times before the end of the month. See how I do, and go from there, depending on my results. And then lately, I've been learning how to play Magic the Gathering. That's something that a bunch of my friends have been very into, and I played a little bit like way back in middle school. And I was always like, okay, I'm a nerd. I'm not that much of a nerd. Thought I was like not interested in or like too good for Magic or something. And then actually
Yeah.
on a stream over the summer, I had picked up a couple Final Fantasy packs of Magic the Gathering. just because I
Mm-hmm.
had already started my FFX playthrough then. Like I was already playing 10 in July, knowing it would take me a while and moving and everything. And I opened Vivi in one of those packs, which I didn't realize was like a huge deal and is already banned and standard, and people were freaking out about it. And I had texted one of my friends, like, "Well, I don't know anything about Magic. I don't know if any of these cards are any good, but like, I got a few characters I know, and I like Vivi." And then he was like, "You need to build a deck. You need to learn how to play." So I haven't gone to my local game stores too often out here yet, but that is a way I'm hoping to just meet some people in town. I went to the
Mhm.
pre-release for Avatar. You cannot see it. Well, I will just take it off the wall because it's held on with magnets. I got the little pre-release box.
Oh my
Normally
gosh, that's
goes
so
right there in that
cool.
gap on the wall. There's a pre-release event this weekend for the next drop, so I'm gonna go to that. Play in paper for
Mhm.
the second time ever. I've been playing a lot of Arena. And
Yes.
there's gonna be The Hobbit in Magic later this year to tie back
I
into Rings of Power
know.
and everything. So that's pretty much my gaming world the last few weeks is Cabernet, trying to beat a boss, learning how to play Magic, and playing and replaying some demos. A couple of games that we're gonna talk about later. I've played the demo for like 4 hours. So that's where I'm at
Yes.
gaming wise. I've been reading a lot of manga. I got into manga kind of
Yeah.
during COVID. So there are 9 different series that I read every Sunday, and then 5 more
Whoa.
that are like more sporadic. I'm a little behind on this week, so I got a few more to read after this, but I've been reading a lot of that. One specific one I'm going to shout out though quick because it has an anime adaptation that I think starts like this week or very soon. It's called You and I Are Polar Opposites, and it's just a really sweet, wholesome high school romance. It's just two characters. One of them is like the stoic, quiet, nerdy guy, and the other is bubbly, bright hair, super social, popular girl that come together like immediately. And then their friend group and other characters fill in, and it's just very fun and sweet. I love the manga. I think it's done, but it's not all in the Shonen Jump app that I read from. And
Hmm.
yeah, the anime is about to drop, so I'm looking forward to that. Been watching a lot of anime lately with my partner and listening to a lot of Caroline Rose, who I don't know how
Ooh,
many people
okay.
know. Saint Vincent and
No.
Courtney Barnett. That trio is like my faves. I have a soft spot for sapphic singers because all three of them are that. And while I've ditched Spotify and haven't fully switched to something else yet, I just have YouTube open on my second screen all the time while working from home.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I'm listening to this show and others and just random music videos and things. So shout out to all of them. It's a Caroline Rose
Yeah.
poster right there from 2018, I think.
Oh, that's what sort of like genre would you classify Caroline Rose, as well as Saint Vincent and Courtney Barnett?
Oof.
Are they like more singer-songwriter, kind of chill, or
No.
yeah.
um, I'm kind of, for someone who used to work at a music venue and has a lot of friends that are musicians or were in bands, I'm pretty terrible about getting really specific with genres because I would just be like, oh, these are all different types of
Mhm.
indie rock, which means nothing because that means so many things.
Or
But
like if it's more
it's also
helpful,
true.
maybe like if you're in like this kind of mood, Caroline Rose would be great. And if you're in this kind of mood, Saint Vincent would be great. I don't know if that's more helpful.
So
Like,
all three of them, if you want songs about yearning and longing, you'll find those. If you want songs that are
mhm.
just kind of like a F you or men are terrible, you'll find those. Uh, just lots of different commentary on day to day things. But the vibes where St. Vincent, Annie Clark is known for being an incredible guitar player. And she's like
Okay.
played guitar and sung vocals with Nirvana at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and
Oh
stuff.
my
So if you
gosh.
want some like guitar and a lot of electronic stuff, depending on the album, St. Vincent. Courtney Barnett has a very unique vocal style. She kind of sings a lot, and she's Australian, and her accent definitely comes through a little more than some singers do. And Caroline Rose has had a really interesting arc where her I think, changed pronouns, very, very first album Skip It. It's like a folk
Oh.
kind of country album, and then immediately after that pivoted to extremely different, more bedroom pop stuff with some just like really
Mm.
cool anthems, and then album about a melodramatic lesbian breakup that's incredible. So those are the vibes.
Yes. Love it. Okay, that's great because I had never heard of any of the three artists, and I am always looking for new music to add to my playlist. So I have just added added them to my
Caroline
title
Rose
playlists.
is my kind of musical equivalent of what I've said about indies and having some sort of connection or knowledge about a developer or an
Hmm.
artist or person. Because that's someone that I heard on Iowa Public Radio in like 2017 and I was like, this song is incredible.
What?
And then they just happened to be playing a couple hours away, like a month later. I went to that show and there were like 40 people there. We like talked and hung out at the bar, like that poster is signed and stuff. And they
Wow.
and their band invited me to a Kansas City show, so I got to go to another show weeks later for free. And then the last time I saw them was at First Avenue in the Twin Cities in front of a couple thousand people. So it's cool
Oh
to
my
be able to
goodness.
kind of like I didn't go on that journey with them, but to be like, oh, hey, like this person that I
Right.
like and support and I think is really cool, I get to see them grow so much. And now other people are too. And now hopefully more people listening to this are going to go check out Caroline Rose.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that story. And I know what that feels like where it's like, yeah, I didn't go on tour and do the concerts and like actually grow with them, but at the same time it's like it's kind of neat. It's the way that I think about replaying games where I replay a game and it was with me. I remember when I had this thing happen to me. And then a few years later, I replay it and it's like I have these built memories that go parallel to the game and when I play it. And I imagine like when I think of different developers and artists that I support over the years, you have those like parallel memories where it's like you did kind of go on a journey with them, even though it
We went
wasn't
on our own
exactly the same.
journey parallel to the ones that they
Yeah.
went on.
So I think that's really cool, and it's nice to like feel like you have that history um, with someone who creates things that you enjoy. So I love that. And that is wild. You're like, yeah, I was literally like Portland hipsters get, flack for being like, I was there when, before Caroline Rose got big, but you really were, and that's like a very cool thing to say.
Um, Speaking of Portland hipsters, which I tried to be for like 5 months a decade ago, the opener for Caroline Rose at that show in Omaha forever ago was a band called Cardioid from
Hmm.
Portland. That used to be in a different band that I'm blanking on that actually had like some radio success and stuff. And since I had lived out there for a little bit and was working for a retail store, which we'll be talking about retail today, slash record
Hmm.
label, like I listened to their album religiously for 5 months and was selling it. So then I also got to like chat with them and everything too. Like that was like an added vibe of like, oh wait, there's this new band that I just found out about that's here and someone tied to the place that I just moved away from like a year earlier. So it was a really
Yeah.
fun just culmination of connections.
That's so cool. Are you still in music? Like, is the music industry, like your sort of day job, I guess, if you don't mind me asking about
Not
that?
at all. I interned for a tiny indie music label in the Midwest years ago, and then I'll shout them out. I haven't been there in forever. Tender Loving Empire in Portland.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's
Oh
where
my
I worked
gosh.
for a bit, where it's a husband wife duo that own it, and they both started this retail store selling all sorts of home goods and crafty things and t-shirts and stickers and cards, mostly that are other vendors, a little bit that they make, and they also have a record label. So all the music being played in those stores, at least back in the day, was like music from their label. So I've gotten to be on stage for different things. I am not very musically inclined, but like that badge there is for Iowa Pride in Des Moines a couple years ago, where I got to be like a stage hand for a main stage act. So I know a lot of cool people that are in
That's
music or have
awesome.
been around music. So I've gotten to like tag along to stuff and go on tour for a week and things. But I have never sustained learning an instrument for long enough, or written any lyrics that aren't terrible and stuck with it, or done any of this for money. It's pretty much all been like fun opportunities and volunteer stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool. um, well, that's awesome. Again, sorry we went off on a tangent, but I just it's so fascinating to learn about like all the things that people in this industry what they bring to it because I feel like everyone has these sort of really cool hidden origin stories or not so hidden, just not talked about frequently origin stories that I'm like, oh, this real now I get like when you look at a game or when you experience something, you're coming through this kind of lens. And so that's very cool. All right. Well, as always, if you are listening and you want to get some of these recommendations in your inbox without having to worry about social algorithms or missing a post, you can subscribe to the newsletter where the links will all be there. And any resources that we talk about related to the game, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, visit geeksandgrounds.com to sign up for that. And we will now head on to our Indiescovery for this month. This is our chance to highlight and shout out some of our most anticipated titles for the year ahead. Normally, we go through the games that are launching in this month. I have a release calendar available, so if you'd like to see that, please go to geeksandgrounds.com. That's, again, broken record because that's where everything is.
It's a
But
good
what we're
broken
going to
record.
do, thank you, I appreciate it. What we're going to do is really just quickly highlight our top. I think I said around 6 titles, but really, I don't know. Did I follow my own rule? I did.
You did, you did. We both put six.
Under duress, honestly. Duress of my own making because this was impossible. But we're going to just highlight a few of the very many titles that are coming out this year that are good and exciting to pay attention to. With again, the caveat is this is only 12 games. There are so many good games coming out. So
So many.
please, maybe I'll set up a thread in the Discord, and if you all have titles you're excited about, we can share them there, because this is a solid list, but it is absolutely not comprehensive. With that caveat, Chris, did you want to kick off with maybe we can alternate just to like
Sure, yeah.
I don't know,
But let's
keep
alternate.
it
Let's go
fun.
one at a
Let's
time.
alternate.
As both cats have entered
um,
the room, one of them is sniffing my croissant and my
oh my
water.
gosh. Uh-oh,
See?
danger.
Are you gonna? He's trying to take it. Little catty, you
Oh
do
my
not get
goodness.
to eat chocolate and hazelnut.
No,
No, dude,
unfortunately not. Not for cats.
not the cats.
Um,
But
did you want to
yeah,
kick off with the first one?
I will kick off with a game that has just taken over my mind the last few weeks in particular. It's called Esoteric Ebb. It's just vaguely slated for Q1, but it is effectively a D&D like detective game with a little bit of the movie Inside Out added in. You
Hmm.
play as a very clumsy, kind of clueless cleric who wakes up having just been revived with minimal memory of who they are, what they were up to, what their mission is, all of those things. But you have this series of unreliable narrators that are your attributes. So the
I
D&D
love
ones,
that.
charisma, strength, wisdom, etc., are all different characters talking to the player within your head. And they have physical representations, they have different personalities, they will have differing opinions and takes on what other characters say and what you should do. And it's a slower paced game than I often play because of that. Like, there is a lot of dialogue, there is a lot of reading. Some of it is optional, where you can click to learn more deep lore, and if you're getting more rolls, learn more specific things that will then maybe help you out in the future. And I love it. I have played 3 hours, maybe 4 hours of the demo a bit twice. Like, I picked it up, played a bunch, uninstalled, reinstalled, played a bunch more. If the saves carried over, they do not. I would just keep playing it. That would be the thing that would
Mm,
be maintaining my like gaming focus right now. But there's just an incredible art style, this very interesting, mostly traditional fantasy world, but then there's also bicycles. So
oh,
that's just there.
that's
That was a
fun.
silly discovery. The game is pretty funny, very clever. I'm very into the writing, and also just every different group or section within town as well. It's very interesting. The
Mhm.
city that you're in is having its first ever election in 5 days, and there's a million different political parties, and a
Wow.
building blew up in the center of town for some reason, and you need to figure out why and who did it. So it's just been a very interesting collection of things thrown at you pretty early on, but you can already see. Okay, this person I can't interact with yet, or I can't find out this detail about them because the role I need is like a DC 25 and I can't do anything above a 20 at best yet. But if
Mm.
I interact with other stuff in the building, that will lower it one. And maybe if I go do this other side quest, that'll lower it two. So there's little threads there very early being like, okay, this is something impossible right now, but I can do other stuff later to make it easier or more possible. And also, everything is hazardous to you. There's no combat. You do have spells. You can heal. You can use grease, and there is gear, but it's like a broken sword and gross, grubby, wet rags and everything. But there's constantly just silly things you can interact with, like something stuck on a windmill, or some mysterious eggs over the edge, or just things that you can try to get something out of, or they will kill you.
Mm.
So that one's just been kind of taken over for me.
I love that. I downloaded the demo because I'm just like, yeah, that's you've sold it to me. That sounds really good.
Yeah, I just got into D&D a little over a year ago with friends that I didn't know very well now or then, but now they're like
Yeah.
my closest friends from back home. Like they're the ones that I'm still talking to and like hanging out with the most often. And because of that, sometimes I'm like, well, I want to play a D&D thing. I've played 100 plus hours of Baldur's Gate 3. I want a D&D thing that's not that and maybe doesn't have combat. And then that's
Hmm.
what Esoteric Ebb is.
That's great. Man, I still need to finish Baldur's Gate. I still have not. Goals. We'll put that
I
in
will
the.
never see Act 3. I just start over every couple of months. I have a co-op playthrough with my sister who has beaten it, but then we'll play a different game and like just
Hmm.
I will never finish it. But I
Yeah.
love it. It's one of my favorite games that I've never completed.
I love that. One of the titles I picked as one of my most anticipated is Hermit and Pig. This is by Heavy Lunch Studio, and I have just been eagerly awaiting this game for quite some time. I've played a couple of different builds in their earlier play testing, and they have a demo out now if you're interested. This is one of those quirky pixel art turn-based RPGs, very like reminiscent of Earthbound if you like that kind of quirk. Like when I say quirky, I think of Earthbound quirky for those who have played that and use that as a reference. But really it's one of those games that's just a little bit weird in a lot of different fun ways, where in this one you're playing a old man hermit who has a pet pig, and you live out in sort of the, I think, the Australian bush. Really, you're in a forest sort of out of in the outskirts of town. You're not by anybody intentionally, and you seem to just love living and foraging for mushrooms and walking out and about. And um what happens is as you're out and about, you notice things are acting up a little bit funny. Things are a bit more aggressive. So you get into these turn-based battles where it works in sort of a rock paper scissors format. You can also interact through dialogue in battle, so it's a little bit more, I would say, like charming and whimsical in some of the ways that you're interacting and sort of navigating the system. And you find out that while there's maybe something more outer out of the earth space going on, like out of world going on, there's also something very real happening in the community that you live by, where a corporation is taking over and trying to monopolize, I forget, they're monopolizing a resource for the townsfolk, and they're not paying folks. And you see sort of like these labor issues starting to come up and resistance to corporations come up. So these are all really great themes because I love like the sort of very relatable mundane conflicts amidst what seems to be like something from space maybe coming potentially. There's some weird stuff that like you're floating around in sort of these ethereal places that in the demo you're just kind of like what's going on? I don't know. I think there's an asteroid that may have fallen, which again is another very Earthbound specific reference. This is all happening very early in the demo, so I wouldn't consider it necessarily spoilers, more as premise setting up. So yeah, that's gonna be a great game. I think very very humorous. Or maybe you're not. I don't know why I said Australian bush. I just realized I just in my head said it in Australia, but I don't think it's actually in Australia.
Maybe it is.
I think you're just out in the forest somewhere. For some reason,
Whoever's
this
listening to
feels
this, go
very,
play the demo. Tell us if it looks like
yeah,
Australia or not.
yeah. Tell us if this is an Australian vibe type game, which is funny because the developers I think are based in like one of the Carolinas. Like,
It could still be
not,
Australia.
yeah,
Lake
that's
is
true.
set in the Pacific Northwest. It's made by a European team.
That's true.
Delightful
That's
game,
true.
but they have the steering wheel of the mail truck on the wrong side.
Yeah, so maybe that's what I'm just like really receptive to like the geography of Australia. And I see it. But yeah, Hermit and Pig is coming out on February 5th. So technically I am anticipating it and I don't have to wait very long, which is also why I'm excited and highly anticipating it because it's coming out soon. So yeah.
That's
What's
one
your
where,
second one? Oh, go ahead.
briefly, I need to play the demo for that one still, because I watched you have a video playing through the
Hmm.
demo, and the combat just seems interesting. And watching it, I'm like, am I gonna enjoy these particular prompts or get it or not? So I just need to play it for
Yes.
myself and find out.
And I will say the developers, when they introduce the combat, because there's some actions that are when you're doing when I say rock, paper, scissors, it's like rock, paper, scissors meets like almost a QTE kind of essence. But you can also adjust that in the settings, if I remember correctly, where if you do not want any of the like input stuff that you have to do to make your action happen, you can just turn it to a button press and make it more sort of traditionally turn based, which I appreciate because I agree that the combat as it originally stands may be a turnoff for some folks. So I'm glad you did shout that. They will have options as far as I can tell.
So my second game is one that I'm not going to talk about for as much as some of the others, but in part because it's a Wholesome Games Presents game,
Yeah.
Fishbowl. I am so excited about this one. It's another one where I actually played the demo twice. The demo's shorter than Esoteric Ebb. It's maybe 20 to 30 minutes. But this is one where you're playing as a early 20 something who's moved to a new city, starting a new job, pretty isolated from family and friends, and still dealing with a loss of someone dear to them. So there's automatically going to be some heavy emotional things happening, and a lot of relatable feelings, I think. The studio is called I Miss My Friends, which also feels like the same kind of vibe happening within the game, like just a perfect intersection of sweet and somber. And there's mini games that I think are the right degree of you have just enough going on, enough difficulty in kind of simple puzzles, moving things in a package to get the thing on the bottom. The character's a video editor, and there's a somewhat rhythm game, somewhat kind of like Tetris type mini game where there are different colored just rectangles really on the right side of the screen that you need to move to associate them with their correct color, but they speed up, so you do actually need to move them correctly and throw them down pretty quickly. And I'm just really looking forward to it. I think that it's a story that's going to make me laugh at some point. Maybe it's just out of the toy fish that we're talking to, and it's definitely going to make me cry during the dream slash memory sequences. It has really beautiful art, and it's coming out sometime in April.
Yes. And full disclosure, I did not ask Chris to mention this game
Nope.
as part
I
of the
saw
Wholesome
it was
Game
not
team.
one of your picks, and I was like, I need to add it. I have to talk about it.
But yeah, shout out. The team is like I won't speak to the game because I am a biased person in this, but I can speak to the team, and the team are absolutely incredible people. And I feel so lucky to have met them and to be working with them. So, yeah, shout out to I Miss My Friends Studio. Very, very great folks. Uh, Also, speaking of great folks, I got to meet the Loftia team while I was in Australia last year, and they were so wonderful and kind.
Maybe this is
And
why
that
you had
is
Australia on the mind.
maybe it is. I don't know why Hermit and Pig is like just it feels so Australian coded to me. But Loftia is another game I'm anticipating. This one is a I think more rare pick for me because I usually do not select online multiplayer games as my most anticipated types of titles. I just usually don't play games online. I'm very much a solo. Like I love an RPG, I love a single player narrative game, I love puzzle games that I play. If I play with other people, it's because we're communicating and talking, but like I am driving the steering wheel or they're driving the steering wheel. But Loftia it bills itself as a cozy MMO. And what I appreciate, because there are a lot of cozy MMOs out there, is that this one, as far as I know, I haven't seen anything in terms of like gotcha mechanics that they're trying to implement, which I always appreciate. I also haven't seen anything, which I'm sure they'll have some sort of paid like monetization, but so far I feel like it feels relatively safer compared to some other MMOs out there. Also, I believe, unlike quite a few of the cozy MMO games now, they're not utilizing like ChatGPT or any sort of LLMs, which is always great. Been, it's like I have been struggling to find, honestly, a cozy multiplayer game that doesn't include AI significantly. And so it's been really nice to see. As far as I can tell, Loftia does not, and that makes me very happy. Because it's getting harder, I feel like, to find online games, and especially at the scale of these MMOs that don't include some sort of generative AI. Uh, and it's just a really cute, like it plays on the Animal Crossing type fantasy where if you want to decorate spaces with your friends, if you want to create fashion and wear it and share it off and make your character and make yourself and express yourself in a game, however you would like to, it seems like this game will allow you to do that. And it's about more sort of a solar punk aesthetic where it's about turning like trash into recycling and using that to build and customizing your worlds and making it sort of more restorative rather than, I think, as far as I can tell, like just building for the sake of building. It's about restoring your locale, I guess. There's been playtests. I haven't gotten my hands on it other than the brief time I got to play at PAX. So all of this with, very big asterisks depending on what it actually plays like, but it feels very promising and it looks very cute. So that's Loftia.
My next one is a ridiculous game. It is building
Yes.
relationships, and then the little note here is also a future episode of my podcast is with the developer of building relationships. So maybe I'm
Yay.
a slight bias from that, but I was looking forward to it before I ever talked to them. And building relationships is a short hike esque 3D exploration game around an island with a bunch of different biomes where you play as a house and everybody else is a building of some sort. And also, there's a dating sim element. It's definitely not
Mhm.
dating sim or dating sim first. It is exploration, silly movement. I think just every aspect of that game is built around having fun. You're a building that doesn't have legs, so you're just like rolling around and bouncing around the environment. There's definitely exploration to do and just things to find and collect. There's a bunch of treasure chests around the island because treasure chests are buildings that will give you different unlocks or will improve your jump and stuff. There's a fishing mini game, but you're fishing for cars and trucks because why not?
Mhm.
Like just everything about it seems to be what can I add that will make this fun? If I add this thing, will it be a detriment? And I support all of the decisions that have been made about this game. The dating sim element, I also appreciate the kind of amount of it. There's only, and it's known, there's only two options of potential partners that you can date, a windmill and a tent. I don't know if a tent is a building, but let's just say that it is. There ends up being some spicy dialogue, which is just particularly funny given what the characters are. The bit of a date that is in the demo involves an IKEA furniture assembly type mini game
Mhm.
where you're putting a table together and you actually have like basic instructions and need to select the things in the right order and get the screws in and then push a table into a building. It's just remarkably fun. I think it's really well written in the most ridiculous way. And also,
Mhm.
it's one that's going to be on the shorter side. I think less than 3 hours, for sure, less than four. So it's going to be here for a good time, not a long time. And I think all of this is perfect for what this game is. Very excited about building
Mhm.
relationships.
Me
Just a
too. I
vaguely
will
Q1
say,
for that one as well, too. But it was
oh
delayed
heck
from
yeah.
last year to this year. I think it will be hitting sooner than later. It kind of feels like one that doesn't need a long lead time to be like, here is the date. Like, I think he could just say it's coming
Mhm.
out next week, and the people that are looking forward to it will be stoked.
Yeah. And I am also one of them. I remember playing the demo and I think it was the windmill that's kind of like a dom a
A
little
little bit
bit.
of a Dom, yeah.
And I was like, as soon as I met the windmill and saw the dialogue, I was like, yeah, I know this is for me. Yeah, all of us weirdos who love buildings that are, well, yeah, I actually won't spoil because I don't know how public the info, but there's some really fun interactions that you see between the buildings and like the sort of mini game esque ways that some of these are constructed are also really, really fun. So I'm very excited for people to get their hands on this and play it in its full force. My third one is, the third game that I picked is Neverway, and this is definitely, I'm like, just anytime they have information that comes out, I eagerly just yum yum. I eat it up. It's so good. Uh I love a good life sim. I love a good farming sim, and Neverway is a life sim and farming sim, sort of RPG mixed in. But what excited me the most, aside from its incredible color palettes and pixel art, which are stunning, if you get the chance, go to the Steam page and look at it. Uh, but the premise is also a really fun twist on what we often come to expect from life sims and farming sims, where you have an unideal situation. Stardew Valley, you are in a corporate hellscape. You go to your grandpa's farm to like find a new life and everything's great. And here you go to a farm to like find a new life and you end up working for, I think, like a demon of some sort of grim reaper, and you are obliged to do their bidding, like a dead god, I think is what the page says. And I think it's really fun to have that kind of subversion of the, hey, let's make our life better. It's like, no, we kind of went from the frying pan into the fire in a lot of ways with this premise. And so the Steam page talks about how you're supposed to keep your life from falling apart further, as well as sort of search for this way to stop a nightmare reality from leaking into yours, which is great, all while doing what I presume are good sort of typical life sim activities like getting to know characters, building a routine, building up relationships. Uh, it has a little bit of combat. So I think it just is blending a lot of elements that I like from a variety of games into what seems like a very compelling package. Um, I know we have a wave, I think, soon of these kind of twist on life sim, farming sim RPGs
Grave
coming. Like we've
Seasons
got
being
Grave
another.
Seasons.
But I'm excited for both of them. I'm going to play both of them.
Me too. Yeah, it's really good to see, I think, this experimentation happening in a genre that was kind of niche, is still niche, but is more popular and known. And now we're seeing this advancement in terms of like what can we push and pull and twist to make this fresh. And so that's always very exciting. And I think Neverway will be one of those games to keep an eye on if that's your jam as well.
Yeah, I'm also very much looking forward to Neverway. If you didn't have that in your six, it might have cracked my six. But
Mhm.
something that you didn't, that I do have, is Truth
Yes.
Scrapper. But this is one where my excitement about the game is partially about the game and partially about the studio. and its other
Mm-hmm.
games.
Yep.
So, Truth Scrapper is by Insert Disc 5, who also created games like In Stars and Time, which I played this last year because of you, and it's incredible. That game has a major time loop mechanic happening, and so many emotions, so many tears happen while
All of
playing
the
that game.
emotions.
Truth Scrapper doesn't have a time loop, but your memory is being forgotten each day. And you get
Hmm.
to pick certain things throughout that day to try to remember. There are two different, seemingly unreliable, chaotic lesbians guiding you throughout the game, or maybe they're helping, maybe they're not always helping. But you can also only remember one of them or aspects of one of them. So it seems like
Hmm.
there's just going to be interesting decisions. It is at its core kind of a visual novel, but it looks like it has a different take, especially like mechanically and visually, than I personally have ever seen within that particular genre. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I don't anticipate it being a 20-hour RPG like in Stars in Time, but Seer, which was also covered on Geeks and Grounds, being like a shorter
Hmm.
visual novel, if there's like a hint of that, but then just like bigger mechanics, bigger narrative, and
Hmm.
everything, like somewhere in between that and in Stars in Time is what I'm hoping for and looking forward to. And everything that I've played by them has been incredible. They also made This Game Will End in 201 Clicks, I think is the title.
Hmm.
That was a free
Yep.
release last August, and it's like 15-20 minute, also visual novel, but that is impeccable. So everything that Insert Disc 5 does, including comics and the music that they make for their own games, I think
Yep.
is fantastic. So I'm very much looking forward to True Scrapper and anything else that they do.
Yeah. I know. I couldn't believe when I saw you put Truth Scrapper, I was A, so thankful. And then B, so frustrated. I was like, how could I have forgotten that game? Because that is in Stars and Time, like truly one of those life changing games for me personally, where I played it and I came out like I felt changed by the end of that game. And I am so, so excited. So I'm very happy that you remembered Truth
I mean,
Scrapper is coming this year.
in your defense, it doesn't say 2026. It's one of those that just says like coming soon or to be announced, but it just feels like it should be a
Yeah.
2026 game. And especially with taking a little time to make a free game over last summer and release that and everything. I know that's not a huge undertaking compared to this, but as a total outsider, just fan, random gamer on the internet, I take stuff like that and a producer that works on the game posting in Blue Sky about contracts ending and looking for future projects and things like
Hmm.
that to be indicators that like maybe the finish line for this one isn't too far away.
I think
Maybe I'm just thinking
I
that greedily,
no,
but we'll
I
see.
think you're probably right. And maybe it's wishful thinking on my part too, but I also feel like it's a 2026 game as well. Um, in addition, shout out, actually, I'm going to sneakily shout out another game that does not have a release date, but just for whatever reason in my bones, I feel like She Dreams Elsewhere. I feel like that's
That
going to
would
be a
be incredible.
2026 game.
That's
I
one that's
just,
been
I,
cooking for a long time, but I know they've
very
been
long
like more
time.
active on social and stuff lately after not
Hmm.
posting a ton. So
Yep.
maybe another little
So
breadcrumb.
and they Studio Zavir did a local event where they showed off a build recently. So I'm like, if you're coming out of the woodworks for that, I feel very comfortable in guessing. So that is on my bingo card for this year for shouting out some games that way. But the other what number is this? Four, I think.
For
Yes. For my fourth pick, which again, none of these are in order. I just tried to pick and narrow down, is Ontos, which is maybe one of the game. It was announced at the Game Awards this year. I am not usually Game Awards. I feel like is very hit or miss. I either absolutely am so excited about it or I have no interest at all. This is one of the handful of titles I was like genuinely just so excited to see because Frictional Games, who are self publishing this title, they created Soma, which is a first person sort of psychological horror game that came out a long time ago, I feel like at this point, and is one of, well, maybe one of the first, like, handfuls of horror games I ever played, and also one that left just a really great impact on me in terms of just the overall experience. I actually don't remember the details of Soma, and so I was thinking it would be really fun to replay it this year for myself to lead up to Ontos. But it seems like this is going to be an expansion of what the team is probably already very strong at. It's another sci fi mystery, maybe some psychological horror in there where you're exploring a moon hotel called Samsara, and your goal is to uncover like what has gone on there. And their goal is to get us to question like what is reality. Uh, that kind of introduction for me is all I need, and it looks beautiful. It's first person, which again is not usually my perspective of choice, but with this game, I think I'm willing to go there. So, very excited for Ontos.
That is one I'm excited to hearing about and maybe watching you play if you post videos, but will
Yeah.
be too afraid to have the sticks myself. Uh, Another just slingshot polar opposite direction. My next game is
Nice.
Widow, which is a
Yeah.
demo that you and I have both played. It's also one that I don't think says 2026, but I just think it will. So sorry to be cheating a little bit there.
That's okay.
But Widow is effectively a narrative coloring book, except instead of physical pages, it's a digital diorama or series of dioramas. And there's light puzzle mechanics where you will see like a cute little cottage and little wolf character or fox character and just like different animals and geese and things and a whole bunch of colored pieces just to the side, and you need to plug those pieces into where they fit in the diorama to then be adding color to it and be getting some story. There's a voice telling you about I think a summer trip, but a summer that they had. So you're just getting this like very cute story
Mm.
in this incredibly like tactile game where everything does look, feel, and sound like a bit wooden. And I think they're just absolutely nailing the aesthetic, the sound design, and it's just an extremely delightful game to play. It'll be something you'll be clicking around and just smiling the whole time. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Partially to be a break from, I don't know, Fishbowl where I'm going to be crying and like have another one of those palate cleansery games, especially
Yeah.
with the state of the world. I'm probably looking for more of those this year than I have some past years, and I think Widow's going to be a good one.
Mm. Yeah, very much agree. Another sort of palette cleanser, I think, is my fifth game, which is Wild Society. I think it's a little bit more intense on like the narrative and like mechanics. This is well, it's the second game, but a prequel narratively and in the timeline to Wild Flowers, where you step into the shoes of one of the sort of witches who I assume probably a witch based on the key art, who is eventually like generations back what you probably are related to in Wildflowers. This is essentially Bridgerton put into witchy farming life sim sort of settings where you are hosting a magical boarding house. You are to run events for, the wider society. And among that, you're going to learn about witchcraft and sort of influence the direction that the town goes. Um, Wildflowers really impressed me with its ability to have both relaxing gameplay but and a heartfelt story that did not shy away from some topics that I think are really relevant and potentially kind of challenging for people to think through in the sense that it's like not something you would maybe necessarily expect in a cozy, quote, cozy life sim. And I anticipate the developers probably continuing in that thread with Wild Society. And I really look forward to seeing what they do with this world because, again, Wildflowers just thoroughly impressed me with what it was able to do. Admittedly, I was a little biased against it when I started because the graphics of Wildflowers to me read very mobile game and I wasn't really into the graphics, but the gameplay and story were so strong. It like it made it
Won you
one of
over.
my favorite games. Yeah, it really won me over. And I you can see already that the team, like, they have polished like their visual presentation. It looks like, I don't know. I don't want this, like, it looks more premium console than mobile, and so you can see the growth that the team has already had since their first game. So it looks like it's going to be really good, and I think it's probably one of my more anticipated, like, along with Neverway, one of my more anticipated simulation wholesome cozy style games this year.
The last one on my list is the most mysterious one on my list. It was announced within the last month or so. It is called Virtue and a Sledgehammer. This is actually by
Mhm.
two studios, Selkie Harbor and Deconstruct Team. They've worked together secretly a lot of times before. This last year, they self published Many Nights a Whisper, which is a 90-minute archery narrative game that I think is incredible. It's one of my favorite games of the
Mhm.
year. And they've actually made some itch.io only games together as well. Some of those are very experimental. One of them involves a space angler. That's a very cool personal human story that I love that everyone should go look up. So they've made several very tiny games together, self-published one, and now they're back making another somewhat bigger game. And there's not a ton revealed about it other than it seems to be another game kind of like gas station story that will definitely be having commentary on modern day politics and systems and state of the world and smashing things with the sledgehammer. So I enjoy pretty much everything I've played by Silky Harbor and Deconstruct Team both together and separately. Um, they've done a lot of really cool stuff, and I like the stories that they tell. This seems environment wise, like it might be a little bit bigger than a lot of the games that either team has done before. Several of them in the past have been confined to one space. You're in one room, you're on one little tiny orb moon planet thing, or you are a witch in space just stuck in your home. This doesn't look like that. So I'm very curious and excited to see how it ends up playing out. And if this ends up being like a little bit of a maybe in scope or just in style, just like a different step, maybe not a step forward, but it's a different one, a different direction for both teams and their partnership.
Yeah, I also have been very intrigued by this, and I just can't wait to learn more. For my last game for our six, I went with an RPG. There's by Pixelated Milk, who have done a tactics RPG a while ago, but this is their first title, at least commercially, in some time, like almost a decade. And this is a huge seeming RPG. If you look at it, it has the 2.5D sort of 3D meets pixel art aesthetic, which normally I it's a little hit or miss for me, but this detail that have achieved has been very hit for me. It's the environments are stunning, but it retains the sort of charmingness of the sprites, I guess, in the foreground. But this RPG combines everything that I love in RPGs, where it looks like you're going to have a elaborate and large party. You have a priest who has a crisis of faith because he's realized about the war between the gods and the demons, and I assume there's going to be some sort of corruption in the church, because what is an RPG without that?
Sounds like Final
Um,
Fantasy X.
yeah, honestly, I think this is maybe going to channel some of that. They say explicitly it's inspired by like some of the 90s RPGs that really drew them into games. So I'm hoping that we get to like the attack and defeat God kind of by vibes by the end of it. What I'm excited about is when I talked with the devs when I was at PAX West last year, and they mentioned that there will be some elements in terms of moral complexities where different choices may impact some of your gameplay. So I'm excited to see what they bring there, because they didn't really go into detail in that. And the interesting fact that I learned when I chatted with them as well is that they at PAX West, which was last like August, end of August, September, they had fully revamped the combat system based on feedback from their playtesters. And so they actually started developing this game, went through most of development with one kind of play combat system, and ended up having to scrap it and redo the whole thing based on this feedback that they got. So they said it's like they're really proud of that combat system now, and how it sort of represents what they were originally envisioning and capturing what they were originally envisioning. But yeah, so I thought that was fascinating. And as a dev, just like, oh, my stomach went for them.
To have to
'Cause that's
redo
just
such a core thing late in the
right.
game too.
It's a combat based. You've got turn based RPG. That's the genre name of your game. So
Yeah, you have to
really
rebalance the
excited.
entire game then too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Sounds
what
like a nightmare, but it's awesome that they did it.
right. So I'm excited to see just how this one turns out. I've been paying attention to it for a while, and I'm hoping I've been on such an RPG kick lately that any good turn-based RPGs coming through, I really am just hoping for the best for them. So that's
So
Sacrifier by Pixelated Milk.
this is one that I am not looking forward to as well. I remember
Hmm.
you talking about a game needing to redo its combat somewhere on the internet in the last few months. Maybe you've already given this a shout out on the Indie Council or somewhere else.
Yeah.
But when I saw the name, I didn't recognize it, and I added it to my wish list over the weekend. But kind of like you, the 2.5D style so far hasn't really landed for me. There's something
Hmm.
about it where I've tried just demos for two of the different Square Enix ones, and I get a
Hmm.
little bit of a headache. Like there's some sort of disconnect with my eyes and my brain between the visuals of that. But
Right.
watching the trailers for this, I did not get that. So I hope that the game is great, and then also that like I physically can handle playing it. And because of Final Fantasy
Yes.
X, I've been in search of an RPG that will just kind of hit right.
Hmm.
I'm playing. Oh, I didn't mention it at the top because I don't think it's that good so far. I don't know how far I'm gonna get, but I'm playing a little bit of Final Fantasy 13 because that was one I had never touched before, and it's like
Yeah.
okay, like I'm down for it being linear, kind of like 10, and I've played
Hmm.
various amounts of like 8, 9, 12, and 7 so much over the years. I'm like, let's try a different one. That's not really doing it for me so far.
I
And
will
I
say
played the
it's funny you
demo.
mention 13 because I'm about to start a replay of it, and I also don't remember being super into it when it came out, but I have so many really dear friends who are like staunch 13 advocates. And so I'm like,
Maybe
I'm
I'll
gonna try to
consider
hop
it.
back in. I wonder
I'm
if there's
only
a
like
point,
90
maybe.
minutes in, so.
Okay. Okay, so
But
maybe
the
there's time for it to
combat
cook.
system is like. I've played a lot of RPGs in my life. I haven't beaten a tremendous amount of them. Like, I will bounce off of so many of them, but I'm like really hit or miss when it comes to different combat
Mm,
systems. And so far, that one being pretty automated, I'm just like,
yeah.
nah, I would rather just like not have it and get to the next story thing. But that's not how
I
that
feel
game
that.
works. And I guess I'll just drop it in here. Not an indie, but I've been playing the demo for Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. Because I've also never played a Dragon
Yeah.
Quest game, and this one has like a really incredible, gorgeous, cute art style with still the like Toriyama characters, but they based
Hmm.
the character models off of like dolls that they made in real life. It has a really cool
Hmm.
aesthetic, also isometric kind of diorama-y vibe. And I like the combat so far, so that has won me over, but the early stages of that game, it's just like so simple in what you're doing and going from A to B and A to B and A to B and
Yeah.
just like kind of kids having very basic conversations and not being that concerned about having an isekai moment and fighting monsters. And we're just like, this was maybe a 10 in the 90s, but I don't know if it's going to stick with me or not. So I've been on the hunt for something
Mm.
RPG wise that will grab me, and maybe this will be that. Hopefully I don't have to wait too long for it.
I know. Fingers crossed. It says Q1. So in theory, we've got, we're halfway through January, so it's got to be
It has
soon-ish.
to be between
Fingers
now and the end of
crossed.
March.
Yeah, so I'm really hoping it holds up. As a side note, I think one of the things when I was talking to, I think it was the art director, and he was mentioning that the difference, because I also mentioned how 2.5D can just like really sort of turned me off. In terms of the visuals, I feel like it can get kind of messy looking. And he talked with me about how the background environments in this are fully 3D. So I think that may have helped some of the perspective, at least, and some of the detail level that they were able to put in. He went into more technical detail that honestly I was kind of like, my brain does not compute necessarily, but I appreciate that this is built differently, like technically differently than other 2.5D style games. So maybe hopefully that combined with a fingers crossed great story will allow us to enjoy another RPG. I will say if you haven't tried, now I'm like, oh, I'll do
Just
this
some
later. I'll
RPG
send you some
suggestions for me.
RPG recs. Yeah,
Okay.
because there's some really good RPGs that I have played recently that, Final Fantasy Tactics. That if you want to hop in, I have other options if you're
That's
not
on
a
my maybe
tactics
list.
person.
Um,
Yeah.
I've played a little bit of tactics games. I played Final Fantasy Tactics on the PlayStation 1 as a kid, but was terrible
Mm.
at it. I could not get past the second fight. I tried so many times and I was like, well, I'm 10 years old. I can't beat it. And I've never revisited that one yet. But I know the remake is highly praised, although people also say it gets pretty hard. So
It does still
that,
get
that's
pretty
been the
hard. It
thing where it's
is,
like I see it on my wish list
yeah.
and I'm like, will I be able to beat it or play enough of it that I still am satisfied with the experience that I had? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. There are a couple. There's one I'm blanking on. I think it's is it 13 Sentinels? Have you
Yeah,
tried that one?
I have not played
Um,
that one, but that is the name
okay.
of a game.
Yeah, I think 13 Sentinels, it's more like it's not a turn-based RPG. It's more kind of like a tactical meets visual novel game, but that honestly was an outstanding one. But I will stop with the RPG recommendations because
We're
we could
here to
take up hours
recommend
and
games
hours.
today.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Um, but yeah, no, I agree though. Like I am in an RPG mood. I really hope that we get some really solid RPG, especially turn-based for me specifically. That is the type of RPG combat I love the most. So
Same.
yeah, really hoping we have a good year. And I think we will. Um, so again, if you're looking for a wider, maybe more curated, or yet still curated list of releases, that is on the release calendar. These games, as soon as they get dates, will also be added to the calendar. And if you want a list of these games, again, it's all coming in the newsletter. So you can sign up at geeksandgrounds.com. Or if you happen to miss the send out, there is an archive on geeksandgrounds.com. So you can go to past newsletters and see this list whenever you want. All right. So last main segment, we are playing Gas Station Story this month. And every time we like to start a game, we also like to introduce the game. This hopefully provides a primer for you to get to know a little bit about the context of how it was made, some of the developer choices and story, get a bit of just history, if you will, and also prime yourself for the type of content that we're going to be engaging with and what kind of questions and themes we're talking through. So, just to get us started, Chris, could you read the Steam description and give us kind of the by the numbers, like when did it come out? Who is it by? Some of those basic essentials.
Yes, I can. So, Gas Station Story released last June on June 23rd, 2025, by solo dev NZ. It is a surreal slice of life about a mysterious computer virus and its effect on the city you live in. Navigate day-to-day decisions, fall in love with your coworker, maybe, maybe not, and alienate your customers by being rude, you can be nice too, in this dystopian desert ring-em-up. Featuring graphics created with the Game Boy camera, they're pretty incredible. There's a demo on Steam and on itch.io. If you have a Game Boy or a Game Boy Color or a Game Boy Advanced or a few other things, like there are ways for you to
Mhm.
play this game on those consoles, which is
So
incredible. You
cool.
can also play in web browser. It can play on mobile. You can play with a controller on your PC, like I have been doing. And it's made in GB Studio, which is a small game engine meant for making Game Boy esque games that you can also
Mhm.
download for free and tinker with, which I've done a couple times. And I reinstalled it because of
Yes.
this game, so we'll see if I actually make anything in it this
That's
time or
so
not. But
cool.
like, it's on the brain. Things are permeating. I just need to
Hmm.
watch some more tutorials. But that
Heck
is Gas
yes.
Station Story.
Yeah. And you mentioned, I guess it has only 7 reviews currently. So this is like truly indie in the sense of, it's not like an Expedition 33 type of indie where you've seen it blow up and even move into the non-indie zeitgeist. Like this is sort of very much a small title by just this developer who is making something. Not to say other gamers or other devs aren't making something from the heart, but this is a extremely personal project. Um,
Very personal game with
yeah.
a lot of time sunk into creating it, and then also just using the Game Boy camera to do portraits of dozens of characters is just
Mhm.
interesting and cool.
Yeah, I think I would be so curious like where the inspiration for the Game Boy camera, just portraits and Game Boy aesthetic like really comes through because NZ has a game jam game called uh Pirate Pirate a la mode, which is also set in the same universe as Gas Station Story. So if you are playing Gas Station Story and you want another experience in the world, there's this free game jam game that they made. And it also has a similar Game Boy camera, Game Boy aesthetic. It's only 15 to 20 minutes, also has 3 endings. So just really cool. But yeah, it's something you don't see, and it's something that you won't see with larger studios. Partially, I think, because the Nintendo. Well, it's a retro hardware, and working with anything Nintendo probably opens you up to some weird licensing things. But also, it's just like you don't see the experimentation like this happen at a larger scale because it's not deemed as profitable. So very cool. And it caught my eye immediately when I saw it on Game Devs of Color Expo last year. So shout out to the curator and curators of Game Devs of Color Expo because that's how I discovered this game. So
And
go
it's a
find their
Portland
showcases
developer.
too. And it's a Portland developer, which I was like, excuse me, what?
I just
Because they shout
assumed
out,
that was how you knew about the game, was that you knew them.
no, it's so funny because when because I've already played this game, and when they rolled credits, I saw Portland Indie Game Squad on there, and I was just like, wait a second, what? And so yeah, I did a little bit more digging, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a local dev, so very very cool. Did not plan that ahead of time, but I can pretend I did because that would be even cooler. I wanted to know a little bit about your personal history as well with the game, Chris. So, like, I had found out about this before. I have played this already to prep for the club, so that I know how to ask the questions and guide some of the discussion. What about you? Did you hear about this game ahead of time or played this before?
No, this was fully off my radar until you mentioned it in one of the December episodes as being the January game for Geeks and Grounds. Like, I had not heard of it or seen it at all. And as soon as I saw that it was a GB Studio game, that made me excited because that's an engine that I've known about since 2019 ish. Um,
Hmm.
Kyle Bossman, formerly of Easy Allies and
Yeah.
everything, like he made a game in GB Studio and streamed all of his creation of it. So that was my introduction to the engine. And since playing his game way back then, I don't think I've played another GB Studio game. So I was immediately just like ears peaked once I just saw that was how it was made. And then once I saw all the portraits, it took a minute for it to sink in like, oh, these are photos taken with the Game Boy camera. My mind was blown. So I was excited to
Yeah.
immediately download it back. I think the day that that episode came out when you mentioned it, was like, click.
Oh my so cool. And shout out to I want to shout out Olivia B, who is a developer on I think I found them on Mastodon. But they've got links everywhere. But they created a Game Boy camera image converter. As I was creating the assets for social promo for this episode, I had the off thought where I was like, oh, wouldn't it be so cool if I could get our portraits in a Game Boy camera? I don't have a Game Boy camera, and we're also not physically located in the same spot. But shout out to Olivia B because now we have this Game Boy camera image converter thanks to them, and you can just put in an image and it converts it and makes it look like it was taken in Game Boy camera. And you can pick like the color palettes, you can pick the brightness and contrast to help the image make a little bit more sense, because otherwise it does get quite blown out. But yeah, if you would like to, as a fun side activity, make your profile pic this month Game Boy Color inspired, feel free.
That
Or
would be
just,
cute.
yeah, put your cats in there. I don't know. But yeah, shout out to that because that was an aesthetic. And I remember when the Game Boy camera came out, I thought it was so cool. And we did not have a Game Boy camera. Like that was not an option for us in our household. So this is also making me feel like I want to find a working Game Boy camera cartridge and see if I can make my childhood dreams come true.
That would be awesome. I also didn't have one growing up. I was definitely spoiled in the early years of like until I was about 10. It was like, okay, like we had a Super Nintendo, then an N64. I had a Game Boy,
Mhm.
Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance SP. But none of the ancillary stuff for any of those, none of the accessories. I guess the only thing
Yeah.
was the Game Boys weren't backlit back in the day. So I did have the little plug-in windy camera looking
Oh my
thing, but
gosh.
nothing
Yes.
else.
um, oh, I try, as a side note, I've been trying to play a few games on my 3DS. And even with the 3DS, which is not the worst in terms of lighting, I am just like, my vision must have been so good as a child because I would play
Or
this like under the covers. Oh,
either my
or
vision was so good then, or me playing games like that is why I have glasses now.
yeah, I'm like, maybe I cashed it all in too early.
Strained
Um,
my eyes too much playing games in the
yeah.
back of the car. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And you see, I just remember like seeing the button, the power button flickering from the green, like you know it's about to turn red, and then seeing the red starting to flicker and just like hoping that you have
Panic.
enough percentage of battery to last until the next save point. Uh the good old days. um but back to gas station story, I wanted to shout out that this was also a Kickstarter title, which is really, really cool to see. I think I often see and hear about some of the bigger campaigns that happen, but this is a great example of a team saying, hey, we just need this little bit of funding to get us to the finish line and add just a bit of polish, some extra musical compositions to make this the experience that we envision. And they raised successfully the funds for K from February to April 2025. And again, just I wanted to shout out because I have run Kickstarters before. It is not fun. It is a marathon and it's the worst. It is worth it, but it's just like the more work than you ever could think could be part of making a campaign. So shout out to the team for that. Um, I wanted to read an excerpt from the Kickstarter page that NZ posted just because I think it just illuminates some of the thinking behind the game. So here is the quote. NZ says, when I started this project, I was just searching for a cathartic and fun way to express my frustrations with the customer service industry for a cool project that I could put together by myself while being as cinematic as possible. I told myself it would take me a year, maybe a year and a half if needed. Subtle foreshadowing. It did not. I told myself, I had no idea I would stumble upon something that would become so near and dear to myself. I've poured so much of myself into this story, from the romantic subplot inspired by how my partner and I met, to the nihilistic back alley smoke break conversations I've had with dozens of people over a decade of working in this field. 3 years in, I know exactly what this game is and what it can be with a little bit more funding behind it than what I can currently offer. I certainly bit off more than I can chew in just a year, but I love this story and these characters too much to do them anything less than the justice I feel they deserve. That said, next time I'm definitely planning on development taking longer than a few years just to give myself breathing room. Relatable. um, Yeah, I guess were there any elements of the Kickstarter page as you looked at maybe some of the devlogs that we'll also link in the newsletter this week? Did you find anything that you really connected with, Chris?
So I've read through 3 devlogs so far. There are definitely
Hmm.
many more than that, and these go back. So I have just log 2 open in a tab right now, and it's from August of 2022. Um,
Hmm.
but actually, this is a good example of one where this devlog is about workflow and scene workflow and developer tools, and just has the exact like inside baseball type stuff I love, where it's just here's an image showing all of the ways in which the scene is strung together and all of the different portraits that can pop up and reactions that can happen based off the dialogue you're selecting, which I know isn't the wildest thing for people that make games, but it's just always cool to see like this is specifically how this is on the back end. So I really
Hmm.
love all of that thus far, and I also have been listening to the soundtrack on Bandcamp, and
Hmm.
it's really good. It is, for me, my favorites are all near the beginning and the end, and there's one song near the end that gave me Undertale vibes, where it just kind of goes off. I'm like, damn. So those have just been like a couple of things of really love the depth and detail of the devlogs I have been reading so far, and just appreciate how much there is to dig into for those that want to read about it and see it.
Hmm. Um, I also really love, and you can see just like on the Kickstarter page how like how personal this game is because of all the pictures of all the people involved, and these are all people that
Yeah,
Enzi, like, it's their partner, it's their friends, and so it's really cool to see how much of a community effort this is, or how much, like, I don't know, seeing more of these faces, and it's not just like we're coworkers. It's like, no, these are more than just like coworkers in a studio.
yeah. The
And
people
I
of
think
their
that's,
life are the ones that they have put into this game. Some of them very genuinely,
yeah.
some of them wearing an alien mask or a lizard thing
Oh,
and stuff, because
it's
there's
so funny.
non-human characters walking into the gas station.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that is really neat about this game, where we have a situation and setting in terms of like the gas station and a retail work environment that is not sci-fi. Like, that is real. That is relatable. If you have worked in the retail space, this may hit a little too hard, depending on what you kind of came away with doing that. But the setting in terms of geographic sense is like, this is a cyberpunk kind of game. Like, you are on another planet. This is in sort of a distant-ish future, kind of, where galaxies are open to us, where there are different like frog aliens, there are multi-headed people, there are weird cultists that have eyes in the palm of their hands. You know, there are stranger beings than what we may expect if we went to the gas station now today. But that distinction between sort of cyberpunk setting but then hyper mundane and realistic, was just, I find, really fascinating, and that's another element that attracted me to this game because that's something I really love.
Yeah, same. Because there is world building narrative about all of the higher level things that are happening within this universe and how we got to this point. And then it's like, but you're in a gas station. You don't need to worry about the intergalactic politics and things. Like, you're on your smoke break and you're in the stocking room and hanging out. Um,
Yeah.
and timeline wise, one thing that I just thought was funny that I had written down during my play so far is, instead of that 70s show, a character reference is watching that 2100s show, which
Yeah.
I thought was fun.
Yeah, that's so great. And structurally, I would say the mechanics of this game, for anyone who's not hopped in and are curious, it's divided into approximately 4 days. There's like an intro and an outro, but about four in game days that you're working through. And you are just working as a cashier at a gas station. So you're like the lead shift manager, I think, technically. And there are occasional mini games, but this is much more of a slower paced title. You're not doing a ton of quick movements. I'm trying to think, there's like light puzzle elements, but this is very much a narrative focused game, a little bit slower. I would say maybe something similar to like to the moon, I guess, in terms of sort of the level of interactivity that you're expected and sort of challenge that you're going to meet. There's not a ton that's going to stump you in terms of you're going to have to do a boss battle, multiple times or anything like that.
Right. It's more like
Um,
you need to do the stockroom minigame, and you could maybe do it a little faster, or pay
mhm.
attention to how many beverages that character just took before they come to the register and say just this. Like maybe like, okay,
Yes.
that pinged 3 times and not one, so I should charge them more. That
Yeah.
level of needing to use your head.
Yeah. I will say in terms of like any content notes, I don't think I could find a rating. I don't think this went through like ESRB or anything major like that, but there's lots of drugs and alcohol sort of referenced and utilized within the game. There's cursing, and it is definitely about a sort of late stage capitalistic hellscape. So if that is something you really don't want to get into for very understandable reasons, that's just your heads up. But I think for me, what was really valuable is that we are living this, but playing a game helped me sort of like in real time think through and process some of these things that whirl around in my head all day, but then it gives me a concrete place to like truly think and reflect upon some of the things that we deal with that we really shouldn't have to.
Also, not in any way a spoiler, but um, playing this game now, it's also informing to a degree like my decisions within the game. Because in the description, it's
Hmm.
like you can be an ass to customers, but you're constantly given choices on like, do I want to like take the softer approach, or do I want to come in swinging? Am I going to be positive, or am I going to be optimistic? And my default in almost every situation has been like, I'm going to be kind. I'm going to give people grace. I'm going to be positive, like over and over and over again, which I often try to make that my default just in life as a person, because you need to go out of your
Mm.
way to be an ass. And when everything's falling apart, why do that? And the real world energy of that has also been like making me funnel that into the game, even though I'm like, it doesn't matter if I'm mean to this fake customer or not, but I'm just like, I need to be nice to them. Uh, I
Yeah.
need to try to be uplifting to my coworker and that sort of energy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very interesting playing this game right now. Just considering just everything happening particularly like in the US specifically, but really around the world. Um I I guess that's great. We've already been touching on themes and questions, but I wanted to call out also that the developer writes specifically that this project aims to explore themes found in shared societal trauma, rip, and the small comforts we can find at our local pit stop. As the upgrade virus affects the city and world around you, you'll not only face your own trials with the station's point of sale system, you will also learn more about how it's affecting your customers in their day to day lives. So, really, what you were saying, Chris, but calling out like in the dev's words, what you were saying. Um, yeah, one of the things I highlighted in terms of themes and things to reflect on is like the mental load of mundane work and repetitive tasks and how it can be like some ways a heavy load, but some ways allows you to like it provides sort of an outlet, I guess, amidst really trying times. And so thinking about the ways that this mundane, repetitive work can be both solace as well as like curse. That was one thing that I thought about in particular.
And and while in this game so far, I have not finished like you
Hmm.
have. Like you are doing mundane things, you work at a gas station. There's also something about just gamifying mundane tasks that makes them
Hmm.
enjoyable in a game in a way that they are not in real life. So for me so far,
Yeah.
that's the stocking minigame. I have had to stock things and take inventory and stuff. That stinks. But when I'm just like quickly sorting things for 30 seconds at a time, I'm engaged, I'm having fun. It's kind of like the unpacking. I don't love unpacking after a move. We still have some boxes here to do that with. But the game
Right.
unpacking makes the act of doing that extremely enjoyable.
Yeah, that's a really good point. one of the things which this element I think will be very interesting to talk about are the ways that community and can occur in spaces like this, how we develop solidarity with one another and how we can create these small moments of resistance. Because again, we're just a gas station clerk. Our daily life is consumed by tasks not dealing in major revolutionary direct actions. But what can resistance look like? And do we see it happen in the game? Do we not? Do we wish different things happened? You know, I encourage you all to think about that as you're playing as well. Um, the other two notes that I wrote personally, kind of going in with the mundane and mundanity of the work, but just like what do we do in times where we need some sort of solace? How do we escape? Is it healthy? Is it not? Um, and what happens when control is lost, like not just on an individual level but on societal levels. We talk about this upgrade virus that's infecting the city and it's going to cause loss of control in a lot of different ways. And so and honestly when I when I saw that, I it's not a direct parallel and I don't think this was intended as a direct parallel, but I thought a lot about AI and sort of how the guardrails are completely off at this point. And that is terrifying to me, to be quite frank. And so, what are the ways that in this loss of control we have, like, what does that look like even in our lives currently? We don't have an upgrade virus, but we
Yet.
definitely have technology that has gone awry. Yeah, yet. Oh, sob. Um, and then, while it's not a theme directly in this game, I'm just like, unionization, y'all. Labor unions, workers' rights. We need workers' protections. And honestly, it got me thinking about the ways like I have security in my work, and I am very lucky in my work to have certain things that are secure. I am also I don't have health insurance except for what my partner has, things like that. And so thinking about what rights, which sounds so basic, but it's like, what rights would you like as a worker? What would you like to do to make sure that you are safe and secure in what you do? And maybe explore what workers' unions do in your industry. Because in the games industry, it's something that I think personally is very needed. Um, I know you have
Agreed.
not finished yet.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
not finished. But also, I'm not gonna. I mentioned Tender Living Empire earlier because I haven't worked there for 9 years. But I'm
Hmm.
not gonna call out specifically where I work. But I work remote for a Midwest like retail company, and I've been there for 11 years, minus the exact 6 months where I moved to Oregon and tried to make things happen there. Um, so I have a ton of retail experience and I work for a union company. And also that combination of things has been something that in my first hour I've definitely been thinking about pretty consistently while playing the game.
Hmm. Um, I'm curious, what do you, especially as someone, because you mentioned you have retail experience.
It's most of what
What
I
do
have
you,
done professionally in
yeah.
the last 11 years
Okay.
post college. Yeah.
I guess,
But I haven't been in a like customer facing role in a minute. I've
yeah.
moved up the ladder.
What do you hope to get, at least from your first impressions of this game and what you know? What are you hoping to sort of get from this playthrough, or what are you hoping to think through as you play?
I mean, based off what I've played so far, but also like everything that we've just said and read and like the developer's own words, I'm just going to be keeping an eye on the customer interactions, particularly for like any repeat people, any noticeable repeat people I have, and if
Mm,
kind of relationships can forge from that, or if it's not going to quite get to that level. And then camaraderie with coworkers, which I think is really important, depending regardless of where you work actually. Like I think that is a huge thing, and then it's big for retail because I think there is kind of a customer service burnout that is unique to retail, and
yeah.
food service has like its own version of that, and there's other industries that all kind of have like their own, oh, this is the vibe after the holiday season or whatever rush we just had. So I'm just going to be
Hmm.
keeping an eye on for if, when, and how like any of those things kind of permeate within the game.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, just for a little bit of context for myself as well, I am really happy to say that I have been in the game industry now close to a decade, which is kind of wild. Not quite a decade, almost there. And I guess I was in sort of the customer service facing positions for at least about half of it, where I was community manager, social media manager, and those were like my primary roles, where it's not retail, but I'm definitely getting a lot of FaceTime and like direct interactions with people who are purchasing the things we're making. So similar, but it's cushier in the sense that I don't have to be necessarily face to face all the time. And at least it's through a computer where if I need to like take a moment, I can really do that quite
Yeah.
easily.
No one is
Um,
walking into the store just flying off the handle, upset
yeah,
about a t-shirt in the window.
exactly. Prior to that, though, I have worked retail. I've worked at a bunch of like at the town I went to high school in. There's like a bunch of smoothie shops. There's a salad smoothie shop that I worked at for a while. Costco, did a long time at Costco, almost I would say probably 8 years at Costco, which is kind of wild to think about. That Costco got me through college. Shout out to the hot dogs, so cheap. So, um, but that was an interesting customer facing role because people pay to go to Costco. You pay for the membership
Right.
there, so there was additional levels of entitlement that uh,
People having
was
different expectations maybe than other retail experiences because they're a
yes,
member.
yeah. Yeah, no, for real though. The number of times I heard that phrase, I'm a member, so and I'm like, I
So is
just work here.
everybody.
Yeah. But I think so it's been interesting playing this game and coming back to and remembering my own experiences being on the floor essentially and cashiering and all of that. And that's a question I'd encourage folks who are listening. If you would like to either just reflect on your own, that's cool. If you'd like to send in your response via the newsletter or in Discord, um, for the reflection question for this stint, this couple of weeks, there are big events happening like TM all around us right now. Undeniable. But at the same time, we still have to live. We still have to go about our lives. Um, the question I've been dealing with, and so I'm posing it to all of you, because why not crowdsource everyone and maybe we can all help one another. How do you balance an awareness of what's going on in the world? Because I think it's important to not disconnect from what's going on, but still are able to stay present and go about your daily lives. And I'm curious. Just no answer is the wrong answer. I'm just very curious to see what you all are doing. Um, if you're playing the game currently, what's resonating from the game, and we'll share our responses to that more specifically when we come back to discuss the full title next week, which will be very very fun. It
two
sounds depressing,
weeks.
but I want to say, or yeah, 2 weeks. Yep. I want to also say it is kind of depressing and a little bit like, oh my God, why are we playing a game about
At
this?
this time, yeah.
Um, but I want to say that amidst all of the things that are happening in this game that are like, oh my God, I hate this, I feel like there are little bits of hope and bits of inspiration that I found really reassuring. Um, And I do think because this is a game where your choices make a difference, it may also be the result of my choices in the playthrough. So I can't promise it for everybody. But there are parts of this game that are hopeful and that show the resilience of people even in these situations, which is why I think it's important to play.
Yeah, I'll second that. And then also just reaffirming that even if it seems like a maybe low risk scenario, your choices do matter all the time. We were talking before this, and you and I have extremely different experiences with this game, even though
Yeah.
I'm still pretty early in it. Like, clearly, we've made different decisions that had extraordinary changes based off of that. So, um, it's a good game to both slow down and just really consider what you're reading and what you're selecting. Like, just not go a million miles a second. And also, it kind of forces you, particularly with the register, the piece of shit point of sale system, because it is
Yeah.
explicitly bad, especially in the beginning. It's like buggy and slow. Like, it does just force you to, okay, I'm going to click a button 5 or 20 times. Which, shout out you in the Discord, because the game mentions it very briefly, but just to help everybody speed up at the
Oh,
register a
yeah.
little bit, um, when you just a little cheat code, if you select an item, it's just adding the dollar amount for that or the bits amount or whatever it's called. So when
Hmm.
someone asks for $200 on pump three, you could click the up arrow 200 times, or you could click other things a few times until you get closer to 200 and then just go up or down a little bit. That
Yeah.
is mentioned in the dialogue quick. Like, there's even a comment to Sam, your coworker, about like, oh, you've been doing it that way this whole time? Dang, that's slow. But it didn't really register with me what I was then supposed to do right away. So I did a lot of extra clicks for a minute. So just a little helpful tip for being a little
Yeah.
faster at that, unless you want to click it 200 times. Maybe that's cathartic for you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it could be just like a meditative exercise. Um, but yeah, that's a very good shout. I'm glad you mentioned that. Is there anything else about the game, about the developer, any other tips that you wanted to mention before we sign off for this week?
Tip wise, that was the core one for me via your own response in the Discord earlier. Um, and also, I would just encourage people to look into some of the extra things about this. We've already called out the devlogs and whatnot, but
Mm.
um, they did not have an app that they could just make images look like they were on the Game Boy camera. There's like a lot of work that went into taking those and making them look good and having the correct amount of pixels
Hmm.
in the right places so that things would like work. And I think all of that is extraordinarily interesting and then reaffirms how much time and just passion went into making this very personal project.
Hmm. Yeah, I am very excited for our discussion that you're right, is happening in 2 weeks. So for folks who are hopping in and curious about the timeline. Basically, this is our intro episode. From here on out, if you haven't already started playing, you are not late. You are exactly on time. We will be sharing our deep dive thoughts on the game on the podcast will release on the 27th of January. And you'll still have a little time, even if you don't finish by then, that's a-okay. The hangout for the community will be on January 31st, which is a Saturday at 3 p.m. Pacific. So if you would like to come in, you still have, a few extra days after the podcast releases to finish the game up. I will say, a playthrough, I think if you are going through at a decent clip, reading everything and still kind of exploring and clicking on everything, because I did that just to see how long a theoretical longest playthrough could take, and it was just over 5 hours for me. So it's not a super long game. You could probably finish it in 1 to 2 sessions if you're like very dedicated about it. And there are constant save points. I will say you are constantly being asked if you want to save your game, so you don't have to worry if you're like, oh, I only have 30 minutes to play. You could probably get through like a good section of it.
Yeah, the game asks when you want to save and if you want to keep playing when you've saved or bounce.
Hmm.
I guess one other little note, I was fidgeting around the menus because initially I was trying to use mouse and key and then switch to controller and then a little bit of both. But if you ever pull up the menu that has the controls and all of the different things, there's one of the buttons at the bottom says exit that I thought was going to exit the menu. It exited the
Oh,
game. So
no. Okay.
don't do that. I did need to replay just like the first 5 or 10 minutes because I had tinkered with that beforehand, and then just the keyboard vibe wasn't for me. So then I was tinkering with it again
Hmm.
and accidentally quit the game. So if something says exit, it means that very literally, and just be aware of that.
That's a very good note. All right. Well, as I think we're done. As we close out, Chris, could you remind us where to find your work and if you have anything coming up before the 27th that you'd like folks to know about?
You can find me and Honest Indies on YouTube, Substack. I was going to say Subtract because I was thinking of the register and the math being done selling things. But YouTube, Substack, Blue Sky, Twitch, Instagram. You can also follow my personal Instagram should you choose to do that at Honest Juicebox instead of Honest Indies. I also post some gaming stuff there. I also post a little bit about the current state of the world on all of these things. Even the gaming
Mm-hmm.
focused ones, I'm still reposting terrible things that are happening. So we're just aware of them and maybe figure them out together.
Mm-hmm.
And the Substack is new right now. The first non-podcast post there is actually especially fitting for this episode. I hope I can also call them friends too. Our friends of the show,
Yeah.
No Small Games. They recently did a
Yeah.
list of 30 most anticipated indies for 2026. We talked about few of those, not a lot of them, because there's so much coming out. And that got me
Mm-hmm.
to also make another list of 30 more games, because I realized there Esoteric Ebb was not on there, and it is consuming my brain. So I was like, well, it's not like a shade to them. There's just so many games. So then I just made a list of 30 more. I think 6 of those were during today's episode. So there's just a couple places you can find a whole bunch more games, most of which are specifically slated for this year, and only a few of them are like the murky. We're crossing our fingers and like hoping that they come out. And I'm gonna keep having new written content every week, having podcasts every 3 to 5 weeks. We'll see. I got episode 2 recorded, but needed to edit it.
Nice. Yeah, we'll have all the links again in the newsletter. And then on social, I'll be posting and tagging Chris and Honest Indies. So if you're on particularly Instagram, that seems to be where that's most easiest. Honestly,
Yeah,
TikTok, I don't know. I'm kind of over TikTok at this point. I'm
I have
cross
never
posting there,
installed it,
but
and I'm gonna try to keep that
uh,
streak going.
yeah, especially with the sale officially like happen, I'm just kind of over it at this point. So
I mean,
Instagram
all
is
of these
where I'm.
platforms are dubious at
Yeah,
best, but we do what we can with what we have and
exactly.
cut out the absolute worst, most easily avoidable things from our
Yes.
lives.
Yeah. So the easiest place I think for Geeks and Grounds currently will be Instagram. We're Geeks and Grounds, so you can follow me at Jenny Wyndham. I do have a YouTube that has all of the things at Kimchica. I also have a Twitch at Kimchica that is in hiatus because I'm trying to sort out some computer things. Because I think yeah we're dealing with computer issues here for streaming, but if I get it sorted out, I will go back to streaming. And yeah, TikTok is at Kimchica, but again, Instagram is probably where I'm most frequently posting because more of my friends are on there and it's just a little bit more fun. So, yeah, you can find us there, but also again, all the information is at geeksandgrounds.com, where you can look at this newsletter, which has all the links, and also you can see, spoiler, you can see almost every game we're going to be playing this year. I posted it sneakily, didn't really announce it. But I have selected all but I think the October. No, I've selected all but the July games for this year. So if you want a sneak peek at every single game we're playing this year, you can go to geeksandgrounds.com. So that's the extra incentive. You get secret knowledge that I haven't actually announced yet. So that is it for today's episode. As you're playing Gas Station Story, remember to take your required breaks during your shift. And yeah, I'd love to hear if you all decide to update the company software. We will see you next time. Bye.